Hi, everyone. Welcome. I see us gathering here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll just give a few more moments for others to join us. I hope everyone is having a good Wednesday. While we are gathering, I invite you to locate the chat on the screen and just say hello. Let us know where you are tuning in from today. Hi, Teddy. Thanks for joining us. I believe you are tuning in from Chicago. Oh, nice. Michelle, thank you so much. From New Jersey. Hi, my mom is here. Hi, Mom from Iowa, and Anne Marie from Minneapolis. Nice to see you all. I'll give just a few more moments while we let others join us. We're still a couple minutes before the hour. We'll be using this chat function throughout today's webinar. So, hi, Catherine. So nice that you're here. Thanks for joining. Carlos from Los Angeles, thank you. This is my first webinar, so I am really excited to have this experience. Hi, everyone. I see more people are joining us. If you'd like to navigate the chat box, let us know where you are tuning in from today. Everyone is muted in a webinar, so we won't be able to see you, but you can put questions and comments in this chat box throughout today's webinar. Hi, Chris from New York and Liz from Iowa. Great, thank you so much. Elvis from New Jersey. We'll give a couple more moments for others to join us. Hi, Julia from LA. Oh, sending everyone love and sunshine. Hi, Josh from Iowa. We'll begin in just a couple moments. Very excited to present my work over the past year. I've been exploring this idea of connection and connection within community. And I hope that the next 30 minutes are meaningful to you and provide value as we all navigate this uncertain time. We'll begin in just one moment. Oh, Helena tuning in from Sacramento. Yay. Thank you, Helena, for joining. And we will begin in just a moment. Oh, great. Thanks, Mary Claire, for joining us today. All right, without further ado, I think we will dive in and begin. Hi, Sarah from Houston. So the topic of my webinar today is has been my area of research over the past year. and I've explored cultivating the sense of connection we feel within our life with those around us and within the context of our community and our world. This is the final culminating webinar as part of the Strategies to Thrive in Uncertain Times series, and it is really my honor to be here today and share this with you. My name is Anna Lucas, and I have my master's in applied positive psychology. I am a well-being consultant, a facilitator, a recently registered yoga teacher, and a community enthusiast. I've worked over the past decade within and between diverse organizations and communities around the country. And it's really been a joy to see this study come to life in my capstone project. I want to begin by thanking the MAPP alumni community for envisioning what this series could be and how it could add value in this time of such uncertainty. I'm really honored to provide the culminating session, and I've truly enjoyed so many that I've been able to experience over the past few weeks. I'd also like to thank my advisor for this study, Dr. Isaac Prelintensky, who is a renowned community psychologist and someone who I greatly admire. He truly embodies the spirit of mattering and leads by example. It was a true joy to work with him for my capstone. And then finally, I'd like to thank my friend and fellow MAPster, Cecilia Lovestum, who really encouraged me to participate and to share my research today. And she also offered to provide technical support, and she'll be moderating our Q&A at the end of the session. So Cecilia, I would love if you could introduce yourself with everyone who's here today so they can see you and hear your voice.
Hi, everyone. Very excited to be here and to see your presentation, Anna.
Thank you, Cecilia. And where are you tuning in from?
I am tuning in from Oslo, Norway.
Beautiful. Thank you. I think you traveled the farthest to be here today.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you. Okay, so in today's webinar, we will be talking about what is connection and why does it matter. I'll present my recipe for what I call authentic human connection, and I'll also present the community framework that I created in my capstone. Finally, I'll share 3 strategies, 3 practices that we can use starting today to enhance the connection we feel within our lives. And then we'll have a special closing practice together. To begin, I would just like to really ground into this moment today. It's Wednesday, May 13th, 2020, which I know if you're anything like me, it's hard to believe that that is the date today. For the last couple of months, many aspects of our lives have changed and shifted, in some ways been put on pause, in other ways been expedited, and we've felt new pressures and new challenges. It's been a challenging time for many for a multitude of reasons, and it's also been a great opportunity to really evaluate our lives, our priorities, and to take an assessment of where we are and where we want to be. There was a study in the UK recently that showed only 9% of Britons want to return to the life they had before this pandemic. So 91% of residents want change. They want something different. And in the US, as states begin to loosen shelter-in-place ordinances, we have the opportunity to really intentionally architect our new normal. And my hope is that by the end of our session today, you all agree with me that placing connection and placing community at the top of our priority list is worthwhile and will allow us to build a better world for us all. So as we begin, I just invite you to think of these questions throughout the presentation and really after today. as far as your own life, what do you hope to change and what do you hope to prioritize as we move forward? I approach this work through the lens of largely positive psychology and community psychology. That has been my study over the past year. And I also draw on the work of many social scientists, philosophers, activists, and my own experiences working within different communities around the US. This work that I'm presenting today is not exhaustive. My hope is that it's a starting place that can enable us and empower us to be more intentional with the way that we build and strengthen connection within our lives and the communities that we are a part of. Positive psychology, as many of you know, is a field that's dedicated to better understanding the conditions which enable individuals, organizations, and communities to thrive and to flourish. Positive psychology is really the science of well-being. It's interested in understanding the components that create well-being within our lives as individuals, within the life of an organization, and within the reality of a community. Community psychology is dedicated to better understanding the multiple levels at which an issue exists and the way these levels intersect to create realities. So community psychology is really grounded in a more systems approach, understanding the intricate ways that these different levels of our lives intersect and the different levels we're able to apply intervention. So we're going to begin with a question, and maybe it's just me because I've been studying connection over the past year, but it seems like I hear this word more and more within society. And I would love to hear what your thoughts are as far as what this word means for you. What connotations and associations do you have with this word connection? And I will invite you to use the chat here. I see meaning. Okay, it looks like maybe there were some technical difficulties. I see support, empathy, community. Beautiful. Realizing the interconnectedness of our lives, communication with others, relationships, understanding, togetherness, sharing. Are you all able to see me while we're here in the chat? Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you. So those are some beautiful words of what this word connection means to us. One of my favorite definitions of the word connection that I found in my study is one from Brene Brown, who has done extensive research on connection and who in this time, this pandemic, I think she's provided such a wise voice of perspective and recently began a podcast. If you haven't listened to it yet, I highly recommend. It's called Unlocking Us. Brene Brown says that connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. I love this definition because I think it really captures the potential that exists within connection and within relationship with others on an individual level and on a collective level. Speaking of individual and collective, connection is something that exists to us individually with other people, as well as to a community or to a collective. The communities that we're a part of provide a sense of belonging. They elevate a deeper sense of meaning within our lives, and they strengthen our identity as individuals. Connection is something that is momentary, as well as something that sustains over time. Jane Dutton is a researcher who I greatly admire at the University of Michigan, who has studied what she calls high quality connections. And these are moments when vitality and energy is exchanged and felt by both parties. There's a mutual or shared sense of participation and response. They create positive regard and physiological changes within our bodies. Over time, these build vitality and strengthen our immune system. High quality connections lower our blood pressure, reduce stress, and arm us with protective factors in the face of challenge. So high quality connection in this time of challenge, they're an incredible resource at our disposal to use to strengthen the connections we have in moments of interaction. Connection is also something that sustains over time. It builds upon each other to enhance a sense of community. And the researchers Preeti, Bishop, Fisher, and Son say that sense of community is the feeling one is part of a readily available, supportive, and dependable structure that is part of everyday life and not just when disaster strikes. So this sense of community is something that really provides support when life is easy and when life is hard. Why does it matter? As you all know, humans are social creatures and we are hardwired for connection. There has been extensive research on the benefits of social connection, and I'm highlighting just a few of these today. Individuals with higher rates of social connection demonstrate higher rates of well-being and resilience, lower rates of anxiety and depression, a more positive view of others, and a pro-social orientation. Aristotle would say that there's this virtual circle that happens within individuals with high social connection, and that they feel that they want to add value, this pro-social orientation, they feel motivated to add value to the collective, to the community, and that community in turn adds value to them and their individual well-being. So there's this beautiful mutual relationship that strengthens over time. One of my favorite studies that demonstrates the importance and the power of relationship and of connection is what's often called the Harvard study. And this explored over decades individuals. It looked at all of the factors within their life to try to identify what factors could serve as predictors, which would enable them to live long, healthy, and happy lives. What they found is that the quality of relationship at age 50 was the greatest predictor for the quality of their lives at age 80. And this was more important than money, than status, than fame. The quality of our relationship is really representative of the quality of our life. And if we want to build healthier, happier, more meaningful lives, a beautiful way to do that is to focus on strengthening the relationships that we have with others. George Valiant was the principal investigator of that study at Harvard, and he came to speak to us when we were in MAPP. And he said, my favorite quote from him was him saying that joy is connection. So if we want to live joyful, meaningful lives, a way to do that is to really enhance the connection we feel. So what are the ingredients for authentic connection, or what are these components that create authentic connection with others? I'd like to invite you to, again, locate the chat box and let us know what sort of qualities are necessary for authentic connection. Oh, Courtney, I see that Brene Brown is your best friend, and that's interesting because she's also my best friend. And she also doesn't know that. So take a moment and think about what are the ingredients for authentic connection. Honesty. Oh, beautiful. I love that, Teddy. Asking questions, trust, depth, openness, kindness, curiosity. Oh, these are beautiful. Oh, hi, Melissa. Mutual agreements, effort, great honesty and curiosity. Yes. Thank you all so much. So I will share now my my recipe for what I call authentic human connection. And this is really made up of three different elements. So the first is an authentic approach. The second are these attributes of our humanity. And finally, a perspective of connectedness. And I just want to give a disclaimer that authentic human connection for me is really an aspiration for how we can intentionally nurture relationships to strengthen our personal sense of connection as well as the connection within our communities and within our world. It's deeply rooted within what I believe is the beauty and goodness that lives within each person, and it's empowered with the potential that lives within community. So this first step, authentic approach, is really the way that we show up and interact with the world. It's made up of different qualities, or I call them ingredients in this recipe, of vulnerability, openness and non-judgment, and radical acceptance. And the interesting thing about this first step of authentic connection is that in order to achieve it, in order to achieve it with others, we must first achieve it with ourselves. So it's important that we allow ourselves to stand fully within the wholeness of this human experience within our own lives, so then we can share that same openness with others. The second stage of authentic connection is what I call attributes of humanity. Things like appreciation and gratitude, which really builds a foundation of trust to recognize the value and dignity of each person. A lot of you mentioned trust as being so important for authentic connection, and I agree. The second element is curiosity and care, and this is really made actionable through kind questions and active listening. Some of you also mentioned the importance of listening and asking thoughtful questions. And finally, a sense of mattering. So the spirit of mattering is one that allows us to feel valued and be invited to add value within the context of a relationship, within the context of an organization, or within a community. And finally, this all leads to a perspective of connectedness, which is really centered on an idea of love. Love is the foundation. It's the one emotion that can live outside of an individual and exist between people. It allows us to truly see someone else, and often this true seeing of another enables us to see ourselves in others and others within ourselves. Ultimately, this leads to self-transcendence, the second quality for this perspective of connectedness. And this is the extent that our sense of self includes those around us, includes others. Finally, this builds upon itself to strengthen what I call a perspective of oneness. And this is a deep understanding of our shared and common humanity. Oneness beliefs exist in many cultures and within a variety of religious, philosophical, spiritual, and scientific contexts. And it recognizes the way that we are so deeply interconnected, interdependent, intertwined within this human life. And there's really fascinating research on oneness beliefs that was just published in 2019, so last year, by Diebels and Leary. And that shows that individuals with oneness beliefs demonstrate significantly greater concern for the welfare of others. And oneness beliefs alter an individual's identity so they feel connected and a part of all living things, which I think is really beautiful. These connections, this authentic connection, shows up within the structure of community. And in my work, I explored three different levels of community: micro communities, which are more intimate communities, maybe the families we're a part of, or our tight social groups, our friendships. Meso communities are mid-sized communities. For example, our workplace, our organization, maybe our church or synagogue or mosque. And then macro communities, which is a large size community where perhaps we don't know the majority of the other members within the community, but we have a shared identity and affinity for one another. This could be our neighborhood where we live, it could be our city, it could be our state, could even be our country, the identity we share as in the US as Americans. Communities, in my paper, I write that communities harness an extra individual potential that exists not within people, but between them. There is something really special about communities, and they're more than the sum of their parts. So I'm not going to go in depth today on community theory, though I would love to. But I just want to highlight these three different elements that are important to consider when thinking of communities within our lives. And those are social capital. This is a public good that arises. There's an exchange that happens within the context of social relationships. The second element is social cohesion. This is the extent of solidarity and connectedness within a group. It's dependent on the absence of conflict and the presence of strong social bonds. And finally, the context. So the context of a community really anchors a community within its historical background. The social, political, cultural, and economic factors that have shaped that community over time can tether it to a place within the present and can also help shape it within the future. So these are all important to keep in mind when thinking of different sorts of communities that we're a part of. So I took my recipe for authentic human connection and then applied it to these three different levels of community: micro communities, meso communities, and macro communities. I found within each level that I was able to identify three factors that facilitate authentic human connection and three factors that serve as inhibitors or barriers to authentic human connection. And for the purposes of today's presentation, I'm not going to go in depth about these different factors, but I just wanted to show that there is an application of this recipe within the community structure. And I would love to follow up if you have any questions and share more about this aspect of my research. I also wanted to highlight that over the past several weeks, I've been piloting a program that I'm really excited about called Spark Connection. And I think some of the pilot members are here today, so thank you so much for joining. This has been a really exciting way to translate this theoretical model for authentic connection within communities and make it tangible and experiential for people to very intentionally enhance the connection within their self, with the people around them, and with the communities that they're a part of. And I think that there's such a beautiful potential with this program to really inspire a ripple effect of connection from the individual outward to create positive change in our world. So this has been a really fun project for me, and I'm excited to see the way that it continues to shape and grow in the future, and the different applications in different organizations and communities I can work with. So now I will share three strategies to enhance the connection we feel within our lives. The first is to cultivate compassion, and this is really compassion for ourselves and compassion for others. I love this quote from Coretta Scott King, who says, "The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members." Compassion is an other-oriented emotion, and it strengthens our brain's empathy network, so we feel more caring and nurturing of others. There are two practices to consider with this strategy for cultivating connection. One is to strengthen the self-compassion we feel for ourselves. And the second is to practice loving kindness meditation. There's been some really exciting research on the power of loving kindness meditation. And studies suggest that even a few minutes of loving kindness meditation a day increases our feelings of social connection and positivity towards others, as well as can counteract the implicit bias that we all have within our minds. And I'm really excited that we're going to close our session today with a brief loving kindness meditation. The second strategy to cultivate connection within our lives is to give presence. And this means showing up in person and in attention in in this virtual reality, in this remote work setting. Perhaps there are ways to find opportunity to be with others, even if that means turning on our camera to intentionally enhance the connection we feel within interactions. We can practice active listening and show care through thoughtful questions to both people we know within our lives as well as people we don't know. Jane Dutton's work around high quality connections shows that we can have really meaningful and lasting impacts from these high quality connections if we show up fully and engage with others. So I encourage you to experiment with ways to give your presence to those around you and to others within the world. This third strategy is to recognize strengths. And this is another practice that over time we can foster a strengths-based perspective. This is really appreciating the strengths that live within ourselves as well as those that are within others. And by building and fostering a strengths-based perspective, we recognize the potential that exists when people come together and the promise of what is possible. I'd like to take a moment here before we transition to our Q&A, and I just encourage you to set a goal for connection within your life. You can consider the recipe for authentic connection, contemplate the different levels of community, and the 3 strategies that I shared to enhance the sense of connection you feel. And if you're so bold, I would love you to share in the chat one goal within your life to enhance connection, maybe today or over the next week. Thank you, Gabrielle. Beautiful. Great. You can practice the loving kindness meditation on your own. Oh, nice, Leah. Find an opportunity to volunteer, get engaged, be more present. Cultivate a more positive mindset. Teddy, great. Wonderful. As you continue to brainstorm your goal, we'll transition into our Q&A session. Cecilia, have we received any questions? My contact information is here. I'm a consultant, a facilitator, a community builder. I would love to connect with you if you're interested in what I shared today and would like to discuss further. And then after the questions, we'll close today with a loving kindness practice together. Oh, I love these. Reaching out to someone that may be lonely during quarantine, volunteering, practice being more present with friends and family. Raphael, thank you. Cecilia, how do we look with questions?
Thank you, Anna, so much for your presentation. Anne-Marie asked, what correlation, if any, have you found between the importance of connection and people that may be struggling with mental health issues, such as depression, anxiety, addiction, and so on?
Yes, that's a really great question. And I'm sure that there is a lot to share about this that I don't know. What I do know is that there's been really powerful research lately that shows that for individuals who are struggling with mental health challenges, addiction, depression, anxiety, it's not enough to simply take away the bad or take away the challenge that they're facing. It's not enough to just recognize the distorted thought or the maladaptive behaviors within our lives, but it's really important that we intentionally strengthen the most beautiful parts of life. and that would be connection. So enhancing our relationships with others, building a more pro-social attitude within our life, enhancing the engagement we feel, leads to more positive emotions and just holistic well-being. So I think that there is a lot of exciting research within this domain to explore. That wasn't my sole focus within my study, but I would love to explore more and learn more of the implications.
Beautiful, thanks, Anna.
Thank you for that question, Anne Marie.
Catherine asks if this presentation will be available to share with close friends or family.
Yes, the presentation today will be recorded, so you can, I'll make sure to share the link on YouTube once it's finalized. Thank you for asking.
And then Helen is wondering, how do you cultivate connection in a corporate environment? And she's specifically asking if the 3 strategies simply translate into that realm.
Yes, that's a great question. So, yes, they do. All 3 strategies are things that we can cultivate within any sector of our lives. We can cultivate them individually, and we can also apply them and think of interventions to apply within the context of organizations or communities or neighborhoods. Also, what I shared briefly, my framework for authentic connection within different levels of community. I was able to identify factors that facilitate connection and factors that inhibit connection. Some of the facilitating factors within an organization context are things like psychological safety, psychological capital, play. These are all mechanisms that we can use to cultivate connection within the workplace. And there are also things that serve as inhibitors for authentic connection within the workplace. A sense of instability, maybe a sense of competition, or fear or mistrust within leadership. So all of these different factors are important to keep in mind when we consider different contexts, and that's where I was able to go deeper within my paper to the application within different levels of community. That was a great question. Thank you, Helena.
Thanks, Anna. You are getting a lot of excitement and gratitude in the chat box. People are really curious about applying these strategies to different contexts. Alvin asked about how to apply these strategies in the prison system, and Francesca asked how to encourage positive connections among teenagers. So maybe you would like to comment on
Yeah.
that.
Wow, I love these questions. I would love to have to speak more in depth with all of you around these ideas and brainstorm together. Like I said, when thinking of different communities or different contexts or different age groups, everyone is made up of these very personal qualities and factors that have shaped them. So within the prison setting, for example, considering all of the mechanisms and factors at play within that context and within that community, within teenagers as well, thinking of the biochemistry, that period of life, and what is happening within the brain, within the body. There are a lot of factors that differentiate these different contexts and these different age groups and categories. I believe that these strategies and this framework is applicable and is valuable to everyone. In my mind, at least, there are some universal ideas, but the application of how we can apply them will change dependent on the setting and on the context. And that's where the work, I think, becomes really exciting. And that's what I look to do more to develop further in the months and years to come.
Great. And then Julia is asking, how can we continue to stay connected with someone when we disagree with their views, such as political views? How do we protect ourselves from extreme views that are upsetting, especially when this is coming from someone we love?
That is a beautiful question, Julia. Um, I think that for me, that answer comes really to the perspective of oneness, to the ability to hold at the same time the deep recognition and respect that we are all deeply interconnected, intertwined. We are all the same, even if the way that we see the world, our experiences, and the way that we interact with the world maybe looks differently. So I think that it is a practice that we can really cultivate this compassion for others who are different from ourselves, that we can strengthen that ability over time. And it doesn't mean that it's easy, but I think that it can get easier to be able to accept those that have differing ideas about our world, and especially within this divided political climate in the US. Great question. I think for the sake of time, we will transition now to our closing. I want to be sure that we have time to be able to close. If there are any more questions, I will make note and be sure to follow up with the individuals who've submitted them. And Cecilia, thank you so much for helping to moderate all of our questions. That was incredibly helpful. And thank you all just for the thoughtful questions. I'm really impressed and look forward to learning more along with you. So we're going to close our session today with a brief loving kindness meditation. And this is something that I love to practice within my life. And it's a tool that we can all use to enhance the compassion we feel for ourselves, for others, and to really strengthen our connection that we feel. So to begin, I just invite you to get comfortable, find a seated position. Maybe close your eyes if that's comfortable. I will close mine once we begin. And just come into the awareness of your breath. Notice the way your belly expands and contracts. As we internalize all of this information, and just come into this moment today, right now. To begin, I invite you to think of someone in your life who has shown you love or care recently. This could be a family member or a friend, could be a child. I invite you to think and to remember the way this felt. Allow yourself to feel this feeling again. Notice the way maybe your chest warms. You might feel your heart open. And then we'll begin to think of someone in our life who we care for, someone who we love. Could be a partner, a friend, a family member, a child. Together we'll imagine sending this love to them, enveloping them with a protection, a wish to keep them safe, healthy, happy. Next, we'll think of someone in our life who we don't know very well, an acquaintance. This could be a neighbor or a colleague. We imagine sending this love and kindness to them, enveloping them with this wish for health, for safety, for love, for happiness. Next, we'll think of someone that we don't know at all, a total stranger. In this time of COVID-19, maybe we imagine all of the workers who are providing essential services, our healthcare providers, all of those who are most vulnerable in this time. We imagine sending this loving kindness to them, enveloping them, providing them with a blanket of safety, security. We hope they feel loved, safe, and send wishes for holistic well-being. And finally, we'll think of all living beings, all fellow humans on this planet Earth that we call home, all the plants and animals, all of the members of this ecosystem that allow us to live and to thrive and to be. We imagine sending this loving kindness to envelop it, sending a wish for health, for safety, for restoration, and for peace. And when you're ready, you can bring your attention back inward. Notice the way you feel within your heart, within your mind. We'll take one more deep breath together, expanding through our belly. And exhale as we release the air from our lungs. When you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes, come back together. And I encourage you, extend an invitation for you to carry forth this spirit into the rest of your day, into the rest of your week, and into this new chapter of life as we craft and create our new normal as individuals and as a collective. I am so grateful that you took time to join me today. Thank you for being here, and I am sending all my love to you and wishing you a life of health, well-being, and deep connection. Thank you all, and take care. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye, everyone.